it's the weekend, ladies and gentlemen, and comes the weekend. Michael Snyder arrives with a basket of goodies to tell us what's happening at the movies this weekend. Hello, Michael.
Well, hi, Alex, and hi, listeners, and we do have some cool films this week to get to, and so we should get right to them right now. Let's start with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. It's the highly anticipated sequel to Marvel Studios' rollicking smash hit sci-fi comedy, Guardians of the Galaxy. And Volume 2, as in the 70s soundtrack that accompanies both films, Awesome Mixtape Volume 1, Awesome Mixtape Volume 2, because our spacefaring hero, Peter Star-Lord Quill, left Earth with a little cassette of music his mom made for him, and he's kept it with him, and he lives and breathes these 70s tunes, so they, of course, are the soundtrack to the films. Anyway, Chris Pratt is his jocular self as Peter Quill, along with his merry band of interstellar misfits and brigands, and they continue their swashbuckling episodes and escapades, and in the process, they end up finding Quill's long-absent father, I guess spoiler alert, played by Kurt Russell. You see, apparently, an alien came to Earth in the 70s and impregnated a sweet young Midwestern woman, and Peter was the result. And then, of course, if you saw the first movie, you know that he was kidnapped off Earth right after his mom died, kidnapped by Yondu the Ravager, who leads his own band of thieves and is played by Michael Rooker. Anyway, he steals the kid from Earth, raises the kid in space, and of course he eventually becomes our hero Star-Lord. But everybody's back. Vin Diesel's the voice of Baby Groot, because of course Groot, the tree creature, has been reduced to a twig in the first movie, and he's back as the adorable Baby Groot. All the rest of the main cast are back, with standout work from Dave Bautista as Drax the Destroyer, a big muscular guy. Bradley Cooper is the voice of the snarky Rocket Raccoon, and especially Rooker as Yondu. And in fact, Rooker is sort of like the MVP in this film. We also, of course, have let's not forget Zoe Saldana as Gamora, who is the green-skinned kind of love interest in the gang, and Karen Gillan as the snarky Nebula. Our villains include Elizabeth Debicki as Aisha, who leads a golden race of apparently video game-obsessed people, and Pom Klementieff, a Canadian actress, plays Mantis, who joins the group. Everybody is wonderful in the film, and it's not quite the revelation of the first film. You know what to expect here, and so even though they go to the same places they went in the initial movie, in this case, there is a been there, done that feel, except that they just keep surprising you, and the visuals are fantastic. I really enjoyed it, but then again, you know, comic book fan, so this stuff is right in my wheelhouse, if you will. Three Generations is a timely and topical ensemble movie wherein a mother has to come to terms with her daughter's decision to transition from female to male and then track down the kid's biological father to get his legal consent. Kind of Lifetime-y, I guess. Kind of a Lifetime movie. But you've got Naomi Watts and Elle Fanning as the mother and daughter who wants to be a son, and Susan Sarandon, or is that Sarandon? Susan Sarandon and Linda Emond as the teenagers, are you ready? Live-in lesbian grandparents. Oh, this is a modern movie. Anyway, Tate Donovan plays the kid's absent biological father, and the movie's heart is in the right place. But the soap is thick in this one, and it just becomes a by-the-numbers family drama about a broken marriage, only with an impending sex change in the middle of it. I mean, to be fair, I thought that Elle Fanning did a solid job as Ray, and you know, the kid who, you know, the boy who wants to grow up to be a girl. But you know, actually, as the, you know, a boy trapped in a girl's body, essentially. And everybody else is good and solid in this thing. But, you know, I just got a feeling of this was a little too by the numbers. I think that's the easiest way to put it. Directed by Gaby Delal. And, you know, again, everyone's heart was in the right place. I just wish this film had more surprises and had more power considering what was going on here. Okay, The Dinner. Richard Gere and Laura Linney are at the top of a very good cast and a very tense mix of drama and mystery that looks at how far parents are going to go to protect their kids. Gere is a congressman who's running for governor, and his brother Paul is psychiatric fodder. He's a very troubled man and played very well in an unconventional piece of casting by Steve Coogan. Laura Linney is Paul's wife, Claire, who has been basically long-suffering, and Rebecca Hall is Richard Gere's most recent partner, or shall we say that Stan's most recent partner, Caitlin, and they're all at dinner together in a very posh and fancy restaurant. And the movie is basically set up in a series of the courses that they're going to have at this fancy, posh restaurant. But there's the underlying circumstance of what their kids have been up to. This is directed by Oren Moverman, who was the writer-director of The Messenger, which I thought was fantastic. And I thought this was sort of deliciously dark and upsetting, very well written, and again, creatively cast with these 4 first-rate lead actors and a supporting performance by Chloe Sevigny. And the construction is very dreamy. I tell you, Coogan in particular was a revelation in The Dinner. This is not going to be to everyone's taste, if you will. And I know that, it's a pretty brutal sit-through on some levels, but I thought it was right in my sweet spot. As a matter of fact, I can't wholeheartedly recommend it, but it was as if the movie was made for me personally. I really thought it was good. The Lovers is an intimate romantic comedy starring Deborah Winger and Tracy Letts as a long-married but dispassionate couple that are having affairs, and they're about to get divorced, and then suddenly something reignites their passion. So it's where you start cheating on your lovers. It's kind of a crazy circumstance, I suppose. And the movie was not what I expected. And Winger, who's been MIA from the big screen for years, and Letts, who usually plays, kind of character roles, they're great in this film. And there were a few weird flourishes, but the film is very well acted and fairly unique for an American movie. It seemed very European and, again, very intimate. But I thought it was very well done. It was directed and written by Azazel Jacobs and made on a shoestring, I'm sure, in a suburb somewhere. But, it worked. And it's something that can translate pretty well to video. I enjoyed it a lot. Let's see. From Italy comes an acclaimed dramedy about 2 troubled women residing in a very progressive Tuscan psychiatric facility. Hey, everybody wants to go to Tuscany, but do you want to be locked up in the loony bin there? Anyway, they get a chance to escape, and this brings the 2 of them together in the proverbial life-changing adventure. That may sound a little typical in a film of this ilk, but the 2 lead actresses, Valerie Bruni-Tedeschi as the snooty Beatrice, who thinks she's royalty, and Michaela Ramzati as the tattooed self-destructive Donatella, they are fantastic. And the road trip is a scenic blast. It's Tuscany, for God's sake. And the drama and comedy all worked for me. Director, co-screenwriter Paolo Virzi came up with a loony and endearing movie here, and you'd be crazy, to pass on seeing it unless you have an irrational psychiatric fear of subtitles. Some do. Anyway, Like Crazy gets a big like from me. A couple of quick documentary notes. Risk is a documentary about the life of WikiLeaks editor-in-chief Julian Assange. It's directed by Laura Poitras, who made the excellent Edward Snowden documentary Citizen 4. She's carving out a little space for herself in documentary land. And whereas it was easy for me to root for Snowden, the hacker and leaker, not so easy to get behind Assange. So that sort of changed the way this film struck me. It was fascinating to be on the inside of his story, but the guy is a douche. He's not V. He may think he's V from V for Vendetta, but he's not. The movie itself seems to lack a consistent point of view, like Poitras is as ambivalent about Assange as I am. Although that could be construed as a point of view itself, it doesn't make for as compelling filmmaking as I would have hoped. Still, I think Risk is worth seeing, particularly on video or streaming or cable. To get on the inside of this guy's, to see what makes him tick or try to figure out what makes him tick is worth the time. And finally, Burden is a documentary, and a very unique one, about a very unique artist who did things that nobody ever did. Having himself shot, having himself locked up in a locker for 5 days, electrocuted. This is a guy who had himself crucified on the back of a VW Bug. Chris Burden was the most innovative guy in terms of performance art and installations that you could ever imagine. And this basically shows a lot of his life and a lot of his work over the course of 30, 40 years. So right now at the LA County Museum of Art is one of his installations, and it's beautiful and conventional. I think it's called Urban Lights, but it doesn't even hint at where this guy was and what he went through. Directed by Richard Dewey and Timothy Marinan, a fascinating documentary. Again, something that will work very well on cable. What are you doing? What do you got? What have you been watching, buddy?
Just well, the only new thing that I can bring up really is Einstein. It's a show called Genius. It's all about Einstein.
The National Geographic series.
Yeah, and
the work of Ron Howard, right?
Well, he's producing it. He directed the first episode, but that's about his involvement in it. So,
how has it been?
I think it's very good. And I think it's worth the watch.
Well, you got Jeffrey Rush, an Academy Award winner, playing Albert Einstein as the lead.
Well, he plays the older Albert Einstein. There's a guy, I can't remember his name now, plays the younger Albert Einstein. And it's very good, and it looks like it's going to go a couple of seasons. It's not going at a pace where you say, they're going to take care of all of it in 8 episodes or whatever. So,
Well, cool. That sounds like worth checking out.
That's about it.
But that's it, I guess. You can check me out on Twitter at Culture Blaster, or go to Facebook to the Michael Snyder's Culture Blast page and listen to Alex and I on various pop cultural stuff. And hopefully we'll be back next week.
Okay. And meanwhile, for the rest of you, stay tuned. There's more GABNet coming right up.